If you've ever felt fear while paddling into a wave, or even just standing at the shoreline, you are far from alone. Fear is not a fringe experience reserved for elite athletes or high-stakes risk-takers. It's something every human encounters, often in the most ordinary moments like learning a new skill, standing up to speak, asking for what you need, or paddling out into unfamiliar conditions. What's critical to understand is that fear in any context is neither weakness nor a flaw. It's a natural biological response that can be conquered and trained by the average person. In today's episode, we're going to discover what it does to our bodies and, most importantly, how we can work with it rather than against it. From Stoic wisdom to practical techniques rooted in neuroscience and experience, this is about managing fear not by suppressing it, but by understanding it. And though centered on surfing, these insights resonate far beyond the waves, offering value in everything from sports to public speaking or to navigating personal relationships. Let's begin at the beginning. What is fear? Fear is a physiological and emotional state triggered when we perceive danger, threat, or risk. It doesn't matter whether the danger is physical or psychological, immediate or imagined. Our bodies respond the same way. This response is governed by the autonomic nervous system, specifically the sympathetic branch, often referred to as the fight or flight system. When activated, it primes us for action, readying us to face the threat or flee from it. Here's what happens behind the scenes. The moment you sense fear, your adrenal glands flood your bloodstream with adrenaline and norepinephrine. Your heart rate spikes, pumping blood rapidly to your muscles and organs. Breathing accelerates, not from panic, but from your body's need for more oxygen. Your pupils dilate to enhance vision. Digestion slows, redirecting energy away from the gut, that familiar feeling of butterflies in your stomach. Muscles tighten and sweat forms, and in some moments your body may even freeze, a mechanism that for much of human history helped us avoid detection by predators. Cortisol, the body's primary stress hormone, is also released. It helps maintain blood pressure, blood sugar, and hydration while suppressing non-essential systems. What's important to understand is that none of this is accidental. Your body is doing exactly what it is evolved to do. This isn't failure, it's function. Whether you're facing a steep drop, a tough conversation, or an uncertain future, your body is not malfunctioning, it's protecting you. Between the moment something triggers fear and the moment we respond, there is a space, a window of time to notice and choose our next move. And it's that space that's important to us. In the immediate seconds after a fearful stimulus, people often overestimate how much conscious control they have over their emotions. They think they should be able to stay calm or act logically right away. But in reality, that short window is dominated by instinctive physiological responses. At the same time, people often underestimate how much influence they can have over their emotional state if they just give it a few minutes and apply basic techniques. A healthy level of fear is actually a good thing. It sharpens your awareness, keeps you alert to your surroundings, and helps you make smart decisions, like double-checking your equipment or being cautious in certain conditions. It's like having a built-in safety monitor that reminds you to respect the risks. However, when fear becomes overwhelming, it stops being useful. It can cloud your judgment, freeze your body, and make it harder to think clearly. Even worse, it can stop you even trying the thing you actually want to do. The goal isn't to eliminate fear, but to manage it. We train, practice, and build confidence step by step so that fear becomes something you acknowledge but don't obey. Fear can also be shaped by your biology. Research shows that high levels of testosterone can reduce a person's ability to assess risk, which helps explain why many young men may take dangerous chances, not because they're especially brave, but because testosterone has turned down the volume on risk assessment. This muted sensitivity can be useful in some contexts, but dangerously reckless in others. On the other hand, estrogen, a hormone known for its neuroprotective and mood-regulating properties, tends to decline with age. Lower estrogen levels are associated with increased anxiety, greater sensitivity to stress, and more cautious behavior, which can lead to heightened risk aversion. Mothers, especially in early parenthood, experience elevated levels of oxytocin, a hormone that promotes bonding and caregiving. Oxytocin is strongly linked to protective, conservative decision-making, especially in situations that might pose a threat to the child or to the mother herself. But these biological factors aren't limitations. They don't define our destiny or restrict our ability to act courageously. Instead, they highlight just how important and practical fear management tools can be to us. When someone with a heightened risk awareness steps into a situation that scares them, whether it's paddling out or trying something new, it's not just brave, it's extraordinarily brave. They're acting in the face of a biology that's tuned for caution, care, and protection. That kind of courage deserves deep respect. It doesn't mean those with more testosterone aren't brave too, it's just that the biological starting line is different. Understanding this helps us appreciate that bravery isn't about who feels the least fear, it's about who chooses to act anyway. The Stoics understood this deeply. Seneca wrote, "We suffer often more in imagination than in reality," capturing the core insight that much of our distress comes not from actual events, but from our interpretation of them. To the Stoics, fear was not to be avoided, denied, or shamed, it was to be acknowledged, examined, and worked with. Marcus Aurelius, a Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher, advised, "If it is endurable, then endure it. Stop complaining." This was not a dismissal of pain or discomfort, it was a call to resilience, a reminder that we often have more strength than we believe. Courage in this tradition is not the absence of fear, courage is action in the presence of fear. To apply this practically, we must learn to recognize fear not as a stop sign, but as a signal, and we must equip ourselves with the mental, emotional, and physical tools that allow us to respond rather than react. One of the most effective tools is focusing on each breath. Controlling each breath individually is our most direct way to communicate with the nervous system. When we slow our breathing, we send a signal that we are safe and that the threat is not immediate. A simple breathing technique known as box breathing can be especially effective. Inhale for 4 seconds, hold for 4, exhale for 4, hold for 4. This rhythm steadies the nervous system and anchors attention in the present moment. When fear strikes, the mind often races, imagining worst-case scenarios, catastrophizing outcomes. Trying to control everything at once is overwhelming. Instead, focus your mind on one thing, one phrase, one action. Just breathe, just paddle. Whitewater will just take me to the beach. This shift helps stop fear from spiraling out of control. Decision-making is a psychological lifeline when panic arises. Another technique drawn directly from Stoicism is premeditatio malorum, or the premeditation of adversity. The Stoics would intentionally visualize worst-case scenarios, not to dwell in negativity, but to prepare mentally. Picture the paddle out, or getting caught inside, or the leash snapping, and then ask yourself, could I endure it? Almost always the answer is yes, and in that moment the fear loses its fangs. We're not eliminating the danger, we're just normalizing the discomfort. And endurance doesn't always mean gritting your teeth and wading through the mud. It can also mean having a plan. Sometimes what makes a situation endurable is knowing exactly what to do if it happens. If you get caught in a rip, you know where to swim. If your leash snaps, you're confident in side stroke and know how to stay calm. Planning isn't pessimism, it's preparation. And that preparation gives your mind something solid to hold on to when everything feels uncertain. It transforms fear from a wild unknown into a challenge you've already met in your mind. Another crucial distinction is between fear and danger. A beginner might feel a deep fear paddling into a 2-foot wave, while an experienced surfer might calmly take on a 10-foot slab. Fear is not about objective risk, it's about perceived control. Some things that seem scary may not actually be dangerous, and some things that seem harmless, like another surfer's surfboard in a busy lineup, can be genuinely risky. Learning to separate what's emotionally overwhelming and what is actually unsafe is key. One of the most common paralyzing effects of fear is indecision. You feel overwhelmed, so you freeze. How do we overcome this? The antidote is momentum. Choose one small next step. Don't try to solve the entire scenario, solve the part in front of you. Walk out to waist-deep water, lie on your board, just take one paddle. Do the next thing and keep your mind in motion. Fear fades when you focus on progress. But progress can be hurt or slowed by inner criticism. So central to everything is self-compassion. We tell ourselves we shouldn't be afraid, that others aren't struggling, that we're weak. This self-judgment turns a difficult moment into a shame spiral. We mustn't forget to treat oneself with reason and clarity, and especially not cruelty. You don't push harder by berating yourself. You grow by creating internal safety. A familiar hard and fast rule is to not say anything to yourself that you wouldn't say to a friend. So when fear shows up, say to yourself, "It's okay to feel this. I'm doing my best." This simple sentence quiets the nervous system more effectively than force or denial. It creates a space where learning and resilience can grow. There is also a strange truth about growth. We often feel the opposite of the kind of strength we're developing. If we're at the gym lifting heavy weights, we might feel weak, even though in that moment and following we're actually becoming stronger. When we're learning something new, we often feel dumb during the process, even though we are actually becoming smarter. And when we're attempting something scary, something that brings us fear, we may feel scared in that moment, but it is a sign that we're doing the right thing there and we're becoming braver. We see this when we repeat something fearful many times over. On the first attempt at a bungee jump, we can imagine it will bring us colossal terror. A fear of heights, the cord snapping, falling to a painful death, the unfamiliar and unpredictable to us. If we continue to bungee jump, by the 10th or 11th leap, those thoughts probably won't even cross our minds, and we will have zero sense of fear and may even consider it mundane or boring to have to make another leap. In less consequential pursuits, where the stakes aren't life or death, one of the surprising benefits of failure is that over time it makes us less afraid of failing. When we try something, don't succeed, and realize we're still okay, that we can recover, learn and move forward, we start to strip failure of its power. It becomes something familiar, not something to fear. Each time we fail and survive it, the idea of failing again feels less daunting. This shift is powerful. It frees us to take more risks, try new things, and stretch ourselves without being paralyzed by the what-ifs. Failure stops being a wall and becomes part of the path. And after the moment has passed, after the session, take time to reflect. What triggered your fear? How did you respond? What tools helped? This debrief builds emotional resilience. It gives your experience shape, meaning, and memory. So the next time fear appears, and it will, don't wait for it to disappear. Remind yourself that this feeling is not a warning to stop, but a sign that you're about to grow stronger, and that it is an evolutionary prep for action, a feature, not a bug. Trust that even if your hands shake, you're building strength, and return tomorrow not to be fearless, but to be more familiar, more prepared, and more in control. Thanks for watching. We'll see you again next time.